Hey everyone, welcome to Bad Storytellers, a podcast about a small group of writers in Titusville, Florida. I am your host, Josh LaForge, and with me today is Liam Malone.
Hey everybody.
Max Wessel.
I'm back, sweethearts.
And calling in is Doug Banks.
Hello.
We typically start by discussing the media we've consumed in the time between this and our last podcast, and then we move on to our own shitty writing samples. And at the end of each episode, we roll the dice and workshop an imaginary film from a list of genres, and then record the trailer for your listening pleasure. So, how you guys doing?
I'm doing pretty good.
Yeah, okay.
Okay,
Well enough.
so we've got one retraction.
Only one?
Yeah. It's really just a clarification because you couldn't remember the name of the newscaster in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Yeah.
April O'Neil.
It's Carlos Chang O'Brien Gambe.
And you know what? I completely forgive you for not remembering the whole thing.
I think
Carlos
you missed
Chang
the click.
O'Brien
There's a
Gambe.
in there.
I would love to hear that
It
newscaster.
didn't put the click on there.
So that's another traction for next week.
Yeah. What'd you guys consume over this past week?
I finished the second season of House of Cards. I watched some more Foyle's War.
This is the American House of Cards?
Yes, that shit is over for me. I finished all of that. And then I watched a documentary that was really, really fucking good. It was called, I think, Searching for Miss Meyer. Anyway, the story is like in 2005, this guy likes to go to estate sales and garage sales, and he just buys shit really cheap just to see what it is. It's kind of his little game, and he was looking for old photographs of Chicago because he was writing a history book on Chicago. So he ends up buying this big book full of negatives. It turns out it's the negatives of this incredible street photographer.
Oh, I've seen some of those photos.
Yeah, and they're really good. And then he gets really obsessed, and he buys up all the other photographs that were taken up at the estate sale. He contacts the people who bought them and buys them from him, and starts doing museum shows and tries to figure out who she is. And there's this whole story of how she was a babysitter and kind of lived this really weird, eccentric life and just took photographs of people on the street, and was from France, but not really. She was born in New York City, and her mom was French. And she had kind of an affectatious French accent that wasn't real. And
Well, is as real as the way her parents talked.
only probably not.
Oh.
It might have been an after effect kind of thing. It was super interesting. The story was really good. And you end up falling in love with this woman and then kind of hating her in the same breath because she is such a character.
How like life.
No, but I really enjoyed it. I think it's something completely worth watching. And it's one of those stories where you're like, at a certain way through, you kind of refuse that it's real. Like life could line up so perfectly to allow this to happen. But it was really, really, really good. I ended up watching it twice. Once with my dad, and then once when my sister came to visit.
Yeah, I might check that out. It was on Netflix.
Yeah.
What about you, Max?
I have been watching Vikings. I started that series. It's pretty good so far in the second season.
Yeah, it's.
Okay.
I think I've got the first season on demand, but I haven't watched any of it.
It's really good. It's very bloody, very interesting, pretty historically accurate. Not too much, but it's for a History Channel. It's like an A+.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah. You mean it's more accurate than the Bible series
Yeah,
they did?
yeah, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Or Ancient Aliens.
Ancient Aliens.
Ancient Aliens.
I would.
Yeah.
I would. Fuck them. That's how
one?
that's how humans got here in their present state.
Iris.
We fucked them.
And I'm trying to get back into Dan Carlin's Hardcore History.
Yes.
What do you,
Podcast.
which
I just started the one about the Mongols.
oh
It's
yeah,
like a
Wrath of
five-part
the
series.
Khans.
He had an interesting point of the first person to write about the good things that the Third Reich did would be hated, but then that would just become a historical trope.
Document.
Yeah.
That's true.
And then I'm just trying to get certified to be a teacher. I took the first of many tests, which sucked. It was 4 hours long. And
Are you as sarcastic with your students as you are with us?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
If he couldn't be, he would never survive.
Of any
Right.
age, even kindergartners.
What subject do you want to teach?
History.
That makes sense.
That's my degree is
Ever since
history and
your
social science education.
fact about Queen Victoria being as wide as she is tall, I'm a little
Yeah.
worried about that now.
Hey, history is just made up pretty much.
Yeah, it's true. It's made up by suppositions of the people who came afterwards.
Yeah.
So you could just suppose whatever you want, basically, and it's as good as the rest of history, right?
No.
No.
After 100
No.
years, yeah.
What about you, Doug?
I've watched and read literally nothing. I was so
Wow.
busy with work. Like I would come home, I didn't watch anything on TV. I didn't see a movie. I didn't read any books, and I didn't listen to any audiobooks. I got a lot of work done. So
I was going to say,
that
is that somehow related to the fact that you're now a hologram?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, also
He's your Coachella style up in the studio.
I voted. I did early voting, and I did my taxes. So I'm learning to adult properly finally for the first time.
Should we tell him our idea for next time with the smoke machine?
No, we already.
Oh, we did. I didn't know if he was on at that point.
But yeah. Other than that, I tried to get as much work done on all these other responsibilities, and then I'm like, oh wait, I have a screenplay I'm writing, so I added a little bit more. So you guys have already read that, so we'll talk about that when it's time. But other than that's pretty much it. It's boring, but it's the truth.
No, you're boring. It's okay. I mean, that's why we brought you on. You're the outlier.
Who'd you vote
I'm trying to be like that. I'm trying to get it's bad storytellers, not good storytellers. If I had a good story, I wouldn't be on this podcast.
Do we have to leave if any of us has a good story?
If any of us ever becomes good, it's like we got to step out.
It's rotating.
Yeah, we'll be the guy who calls in to make fun of the rest. As for me, I finished The Lost World by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle.
All right.
I saw the movie when I was a kid. I don't remember
half of it.
Well, no, I barely remember any of it. I remember the Harryhausen.
Like, there were way more Velociraptors than Jeff Goldblum when I saw it.
I remember the Harryhausen animation and stuff like that from when I was a kid, but it was very kooky. This book is hilarious. It is great. I did not know the characters were so funny and interesting. Like, for those of you who haven't read the book, the main character is a journalist, and he's just all about trying to impress this girl. So he agrees to go on this ridiculous trek to prove this scientific claim that just seems so outlandish by this scientist who's like 5'2", but built like an ape. And he's just impressive and loud and blustery. And the other person who agrees to go is this famous adventurer. His name's like John Roxton, I forgot exactly. But he's a ginger-bearded man who's every bit Van Pelt from Jumanji. You know, when he talks to the main character, he always calls him young fellow my lad. He's like, very well, young fellow my lad. And just he's gonna keep them all free from danger. And he's got the experience and the know-how to go into the jungle. And they get into the jungle. Oh, and there's another professor who's very prim and like upstart. So it's those four guys plus whoever they hire along the way to come watch, and help them through the jungle. They're being helped through the jungle, and a lot of the natives are showing a lot of respect to John, the explorer. And he's like, what happened? He's like, oh, well, I put down a group of slavers that have been in this area. So they all they all really want to help me out. And everybody's like bows to him and like, it's really interesting. It's like, and they're like, geez, what'd you do? He's like, no big work. No big thing. It's just, I saw there were slavers and I thought I'd put an end to it. And then finally had the head of the whole thing. I killed him with my bare hands. And they're like, oh, okay.
No, Tuesday.
Exactly. So, but there's so many parts where they come in, where they get into trouble, and like people are taken away, and the main character's like, I don't know where anybody is, and John comes out of the bushes like covered in blood, with and he's like, gathering up supplies. Like, come now, quick son, come quick, young fellow, lad. We gotta get back to it. It's very funny, and the Professor Challenger is hilarious. Like, there's a bunch of natives that they do something good, and the native chief tells everybody to bow to these four travelers, and they do. And the way Sir Arthur Conan Doyle describes it is like, he's like, I myself felt very embarrassed and not sure how to handle this kind of praise, and I saw that John and the other professor felt this way too, except for Professor Challenger. He opened like a flower in the sun, and he says finally, can't say that native people don't have a sense of their betters,
Oh God,
it's terrible,
colonial
but it's good.
I was gonna say, so
really
then
great.
It's like they're caricatures of the virtues and vices of Britain.
Oh, 100%. Because one is the super prim, stuck-up one.
Yeah.
The other one is the lusty, drinking, full of himself guy, and the other one is the intrepid explorer is just out to conquer the known land and is the face of adventure. I also watched 2 documentaries. You guys ever seen Bigger, Faster, Stronger?
Yes.
Documentary by the Bell brother, by Chris Bell.
No.
It's a documentary about steroids. Very good, because it's really about like his family, not so much about. I mean, you find out a lot of really eye-opening things about steroids and why it's illegal in this country, and like all the crazy propaganda that goes into it. The idea of cheating and what does it mean. And he made 2 more documentaries since then. One was called Trophy Kids, about parents who are like the super sports parents that are trying to push their kids to succeed no matter what. It's really good. It is a very good documentary. I watched that, and then I watched the one he just came out with, which apparently is still touring in theaters. It's available on demand I watched through Google Play Movies. Prescription Thugs, and it's much more like Bigger, Faster, Stronger because it's about drug use, and it involves his family because his oldest brother died right after Bigger, Stronger, Faster because of prescription drug abuse. When he died, I guess the Chris Bell, the director.
Yes.
he was actually had a prescription drug problem at the time because he had both hips replaced.
Ooh.
And he didn't feel like he could tell anybody or seek help because his parents had already just lost one son, and then he couldn't go to them and say, hey, I got the same problem, you know?
Yeah.
And it's about, like, his story isn't at all uncommon, and it's so predatory and stuff. It's really cool. I highly recommend it. It's a very personal documentary.
I want to know more about the overachieving children one.
Yeah.
Trophy kid. It's less about. It's really just follows the parents with their kids, and then at the end there's a little so and so did this, so and so ended up doing this, and it's good. I recommend it.
Does it make you feel sorry for the children?
Yes. A whole lot. Yeah, all the time. There's a guy who wants his little daughter to be the next Tiger Woods, and she is black and Asian, you know. and he's trying so hard, and he's the worst. He's just so terrible. But Football Dad was probably my least favorite of all the dads.
The NFL finally kind of admitted that concussions are caused by football.
Well, of course, yeah.
But no, it was there was like an hour-long testimony, and they kind of tricked the head doctor into saying it, and now he's scared that he's going to get fired.
Oh, he can't get fired for telling the truth.
Oh, yes, he can.
Well, I mean, he doesn't work in government, you know.
In a Turtle Dove update, I'm on the final book of the Magical World War series. It's called Out of Darkness.
That's the one where it's World War II.
Yes.
With magical creatures and stuff.
And it's quite good.
Out of Darkness. What was the first one? Was the first one Into Darkness?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay.
And then there were 23 books, and now Out of Darkness.
I think there was like 5.
That's still a lot.
I'm gonna create I'm gonna create a series of books that nobody's gonna be sure will end, and it's just like something you have to struggle through. And the last book is going to be called Light at the End of the Tunnel. Like, don't give up yet. Like, there is a way out.
This is the
you will
last
see
one.
it.
But it's interesting the way they deal with like the nuclear option with magic.
How did they cover that? Because that's sort of important to a story I'm writing.
They had the 2 laws of magic,
Mm-hmm.
and then they accidentally discovered the inner link between the 2 of them, and it tears a hole in the universe and creates tremendous power.
What are the 2 laws of magic?
What were they? Relativity but it's like if you have a bowl someone used, you can find that person. Law of similarity is one, and then law of relativity, I think, is the other. So similarity, if you are making a shirt, all you have to do is sew half the shirt and then use a spell, and it'll sew the other half.
So all you have to do is win half of a war.
Possibly.
And then,
Yeah.
And then that's how you get it.
And then the other one is, I can't remember the name. It's something like relativity, where if anyone has touched something, you can find them. But then they find a new one, which is like 50 times the power of anything else. So instead of killing people to get magical energy, you can just like rip it out of the universe.
That's bad.
What they were doing was they would kill like 1,000 people at a time to create a magical ball of energy that then they would throw.
There's this thread I read on Reddit today
Mm-hmm.
where a guy was saying, hey, wouldn't people handle their dead differently in a universe where necromancers existed?
Yes.
Yeah, and it's like they wouldn't have graveyards, you know, they wouldn't have all this thing.
Cremation would be the standard.
Yeah, and his main concern when asking this question is that he's a DM, and he's like, do you think this would feel cheap to the players, like, that wants to make a necromancer? Like, you know, it would be like cheating them out of the thing. And the guy responded, it says, this is Dr. Wally response. They would certainly make every attempt to sanctify their dead, yes. Sensible necromancers would do their best work on battlefields or during plagues when there are so many dead there hasn't been time for the proper rites to be said for all of them. That just gave me a horribly interesting idea.
Yeah.
Well, if you're living in a world where necromancy is real and it's like people, you know, there's no graveyards and stuff, and people sort of burn the dead. Yeah, battlefields, but also hospitals, like anywhere people are sick and dying.
Terrible.
It'd just be like you just see a line of people standing outside at midnight, and it's just like, who are those? Like the new orderly is like, who are those people? It's like, those are the necromancers waiting for someone to die. And it's like, we have to scare them away. It's like, shoo, shoo. But of course they know magic, so you can't tell them what to do.
Some angry Spanish lady comes out.
Here's the idea then. You have a thing called, he's like, he's the mortician. Morticians have to be badass because necromancers always trying to steal the bodies.
Are former necromancers who are doing good at the hospital. Yeah.
They make sure people stay dead.
Yeah, dude, that's a fucking story right there.
Would there be a necromancers guild like paid up to the government?
Well, I mean, if you have a limited resource, you kind of have to. You wouldn't want to step on anyone else's toes.
Yeah.
But then, of course, the government would be like, look, we pay you to keep these people dead, but there's an army in the East rising, so how about we pay you to keep them semi-dead? And then if we need them, we have an army of dead people to defend us. Which that's not a bad idea either.
Which could
It's like,
never backfire. Ever.
Yeah, of course. But like you tell the politicians that, you know,
Isn't that kind of the plot of Idiocracy?
that has nothing to do with idiocracy.
No, not even a little bit.
They're
Necromancy has
cryogenically
no place
Can that
in
be Max's
Idiocracy.
new running gag? Isn't that the plot of this?
cryogenically freezing people to save them for future war.
No, that is how he gets sent to the future.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's talk about our own stuff. Liam, you brought in a short work of creative nonfiction.
Yeah, sort of. It's my new favorite game that I like to play. It's called A Picture's Worth 1,000 Words. I just posted it on my Tumblr blog. Send me a picture and I will send you 1,000 words. And someone sent me a picture of a person holding another person who was made of wood and had like been chopped into. And then I just went.
I see. I had a little trouble with that metaphor as it was going because
I didn't know where that metaphor was going.
Okay.
As far as like a writing exercise, as like a warm up, that was like a little bit over 1,000 words. That took 24 minutes.
Oh, nice.
It got me warmed up and primed, and then I got to do a lot of other work.
I liked it. There's a lot of typos that I normally don't go into typos, except for
there's a lot of them.
I thought you were saying something you weren't a few times. Like I was like, oh, what's this word mean? And it's like, oh no, I think it means burnt. I think you meant to write burnt. You know, so it tripped me up a bit. Also, like I said, I was having trouble with the metaphor because I didn't know whether or not you meant literally. Like at a certain point, I was like, are these people trees? Like in the middle, I was like, these people might be trees.
Yeah,
I had the problem with the metaphor as well. I didn't think they were trees. I thought they were really old people because you're talking about like wrinkles. He's like spraying out the wrinkles on like looking in the crevices and in the cracks, and I'm like. It's like that scene from Hook when they're like, "There you are, Peter." Like, I thought this was a story about two old people. I thought this was about two old people who are old and wrinkled, and they're like rediscovering each other through their bodies. And I was just like, I don't know where Liam's going with this, but holy shit, this is bold, you know? Like, and I was like, these two old people are gonna bang, and then he's like. Oh,
makes me want to wash
we're only
my
together.
hands.
Yeah, he's like we were only
My
together for
face.
3 years. And I'm like, would a guy who's like in his 70s really care about a chick he dated like for 3 years, like 30 years ago? I don't know. But that's again the classic me not understanding what Liam's.
I did not
trying to say.
fall into that. I assumed they were young people, and I picked up on the metaphor.
But no, but dude,
No, I get exactly what you're saying. Yeah.
As soon as you
it's-
told me the picture that inspired it, I'm like,
Oh yeah.
okay, I got you.
I should have maybe included it in the document, in which I might actually do that when I'll before that we post it. I'll include it.
Yeah, if you ever do that exercise again, I want to see the photo.
I want
because
but I want to
shown.
keep doing it because it unblocked me hard. Like
Okay.
yeah,
It's like a brain laxative.
yeah. Because the whole thing is for the first 5 minutes I was looking at the picture. I'm like, there's no fucking story here. It's a stupid tree person. I don't know what kind of
Little wooden boy.
yeah, but it's mostly just throw up, and I have it just because the Goblin PI outline that I started doing a lot of work on, I threw away half of it.
That's what it's for.
Yeah,
That's outlines.
because I made a really big decision about the girl to make her less boring, because that was the problem. I got about to the halfway mark, and then she didn't need to be in the story anymore, and that was a huge problem.
Do you mind if we talk about like what kind of direction do you think you're gonna go with this story?
Yeah, well, because the whole thing is I want it to kind of then be more of a Cold War kind of spy vibe leading up into it, but it's drawn into through this very kind of innocuous missing persons case, and then it builds and builds, and suddenly they're in so deep there is no exit. So they and it isn't even about finding the guy. I mean, they find him, and that isn't even the end of the story. Where the reason why he's hiding is the important part.
How do you want this story to go?
I want it to end where I don't know if I think it might be the dark passage where it starts off as like a guy is involved in his own shit, and then he accidentally stumbles upon like Cold War nuclear weapon exchange stuff. I want it to escalate to there.
This is the first thing that came into my mind is that if maybe something is trying to change hands through him because he's like a nobody and he won't understand what he's looking at.
But he's not a nobody.
Right. Well, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Oh, but everybody knows who he is.
No, nobody knows who he is. Very purposefully, we're like and this is in the campaign where like there's an organization called the Sparrows. They were the OSS in the war that happened, and the reason why they're called the Sparrows is his code name during the war was Sparrow. So then it was the Sparrows Men, and then they just became the Sparrows. But after the end of the war, because he is not of a regular humanoid race, he kind of gets pushed out of that, and then kind of erased.
Well, I guess that's what I'm thinking is that somebody needs a private eye and some information is going to pass through because they need like a patsy or something.
Yeah.
And they don't know that this guy was that guy. That was just an idea.
That's definitely going to be part of it. But then the Sparrows know who he is. The guy who leads the Sparrows now totally knows who he is. That's why he's brought in.
Okay.
As kind of a trump card. And the auditors, who are the reverse of it, they have no clue. And they get way in over their head where he's like, I know everything you did. I kind of wrote the book of how clandestine shit works in this country.
I love the auditors because they're like the militant wing of the IRS. They're just, when they come to audit you, you don't want to be there.
So it's like being in debt in Nevada.
It's like the whole thing is the auditors were created just for essentially to process refugees and immigrants. And then they've slowly expanded their power and do more and more things. I don't know if we should bring in the Boyers or not. Or
so right now, the basic plot of the story is that you have a goblin detective.
Yes.
What's the first thing that happens in the story?
A woman approaches him for her missing employer, and then he immediately starts going through essentially mob contacts, looking to see how he got his money for his shop, because that would be a reason for someone to be looking for him, because he's not that he's been kidnapped, he's hiding out. He discovers that he has not been disposed of, he fled.
Okay.
So he is going to go looking for this guy, and then the whole plot is he's been tricked into searching for this person who fled on their own. The girl's not really been employed by him, she's part of this faction, and there's another faction looking for him, and they're both looking for him because he was involved in the Doomsday Project of essentially the Nazis, what is passing for the Nazis in my world.
Okay. Well, I'm looking forward to see where this is going, but you're essentially remaking the outline?
Yeah, because it was going way more interpersonal, and I had a lot of character quirks for Trowell that I didn't like. Like, I was trying to go way too cliche. He was going to be hard-boiled and an alcoholic. And I decided that wasn't the proper vice for him. Like, you need a vice. You need a thing that he's kind of dealing with.
Is Trowell kind of like Garrick in Deep Space Nine, where he's like a former...
He's a man who used to be on top, and now he isn't, but he's still doing his job. And I think the thing I'm going to choose from is where he's an insomniac, and he just doesn't sleep enough. And when he's involved in a case, he stops sleeping because he just is getting obsessed and becoming too thing.
So there's a time limit. He's got to solve it.
Yeah, where he starts unraveling due to the pressure and some like post-traumatic stress disorder kind of stuff, where he starts getting back into spy mode. He's very effectual in it, but he loses sight of the particulars of the details and also the fallout, because in war, victory was everything. Now we're in a time of peace. That's not the nicest thing to have to deal with, and he also doesn't wield government power anymore. But I want this to be eventually to be a reveal where like the girl was chosen because of something in his past. He recognizes it and is totally aware of it, and is not angry where they're at the end. After everything is tied up, she's like, "Well, thank you for finding him." He's like, "I know you're not. Like, stop. Let's stop pretending this was about." And then I also want to work in, because I want to write another story afterwards, which is just about White Church, which is a Jack the Ripper ripoff.
Jack the Ripoff?
Yeah, and he's the one who finds Jack the Ripper.
Well, that could even be, what would you call it, a foil, like, or a story that runs counter to this one.
Well, yeah, well, no, it's a previous story, and a lot of not wanting to deal with anything is based on the fact that like he solved that case 2 or 3 months prior, and it just took it out of him. And again, brought up a lot of old demons. And then when this happens again, which is again bringing up old shit that he thought he had buried, he's like, I don't want to do this shit anymore. I don't want to deal with war shit anymore. I thought we weren't at war anymore.
Cool. Well, I mean, I'm stoked for it. I'm looking forward to seeing an outline, so that we can, like,
because the last one I had was like 2.5, 3 chapters, and then I got to like 12. The decision I made for the 4th chapter is the immediate thing where I'm like, this is, 1, it's a stupid vice, and 2, the girl character that's supposed to be the impetus of the first quarter of it, she became less and less important, and it felt weird having her drop from the story, and she kind of became a tag-along character, and then it's less clean because I started introducing other characters who have to deal with more political stuff. For me, it's a better narrative if she is that already.
It sounds kind of like you might like to read.
Every time I recommend Liam sees a movie or reads a book that I think would be very fitting, he's already done it, but I'm going to risk this one anyway. Liam, did you ever see The Spy Who Came In From the Cold?
No.
That is Cold War, like 100% spy thing, and it's not a lot of detective work involved, It's not a stretch for me to say it felt like the most realistic Cold War movie I've ever seen. It would be boring compared to like any spy movie you'd see nowadays, but if you want like something that feels so freaking real with these interesting characters, I can't recommend something better.
I do have one more question though. So Bowman is going to be his complement, and I need to flesh that character out more. If you're dealing with like an overly cerebral, sneaky dude who's an insomniac, what's a good foil, and why should he trust him?
I want to recommend to you the book Neuromancer, because it sounds like the sci-fi equivalent of what you're trying to do with fantasy. And the main character isn't a PI, but he's a war vet who had a specific job in the last war, and that's what they're using him for. So it's like this. It's noir, but it's also a heist. But he never knows the details going in, and he has to suss it out and find his contacts and stuff. And there's a ton of characters in that story. There's the character that's their boss who has his own problems, and then there's the lady, and I can't remember her name. I'll put it in as a retraction, but they call her Steppen Razor, and she's an assassin. She's from Johnny Mnemonic as well. And there's a lot of really good stuff it does with it. I mean, you could have a romantic relationship like they do in that. You could have...
I'm already wanting the girl to try to be a romantic honeypot, and then he just doesn't go for it. Because to him, it's very...
obvious.
Yeah, super obvious. But he plays along with enough to figure out what she wants.
What about you, Doug? Tell us what you brought in.
Well, like last week, I brought in the first scene of The Planet Without Christmas. This one's longer. A little bit better. I took some of your guys' advice and notes.
I saw the weight thing rather than the length.
I puzzled over that for a long time, and I realized that the size of the ship doesn't really matter. You know, having the weight would be a bigger deal. Plus, the idea of him having to use the shuttlecraft and like have a rush emergency landing, it's like he can't really change the size of his ship. So he was either gonna have to like, I was gonna have him like break the law and then like, okay, I'm gonna just go down to the shuttlecraft and get there early and tell them, oh, it's still arriving. It didn't make that much sense. But now with the weight being a problem, I could be more specific about the weight and have it feel like it's screwing him over even more. So it's not about the size of the ship; it's about the weight that he's carrying.
Because mass is kind of a harder thing to fuck with.
Yeah. Exactly. And it's just like, okay, well, what can we do? You know, like I can't, and even specifically the weight of the cargo, not the weight of the ship, because if it's just the weight of the ship, he's like, all right, we'll dump our waste, you know, dump this, and then we can land, or if it's just the mass. But instead, it's like, no, we can see, and your computer's not lying. The weight of your cargo is this. And he can't dump his cargo because that's his lifeline. That's his job. So it puts him in a really tough spot. And the way he gets around it now, which I think is more interesting, is he goes, okay, if I take the shuttlecraft and I fill it with, like, let's say 10 trees, that'll be enough weight difference to where I can fly down separate and the lamb's tail can fly down behind me and be both under the weight limit, and we can skip this whole bullshit and we'll arrive. So that's right where I stopped it, where he gets the idea. He goes into the cargo bay. He starts to move several trees by hand to add to the frantic rush, you know, to get it in there. It's going to end. I didn't get this far, but it's going to be, you know, I'm going to cut to him in the shuttlecraft with these trees like thrown in, like squeezed in there. It's going to be really uncomfortable and crazy and silly. So hopefully that'll be a comedic continuation.
I like his
rapport
rapport with Peter.
Yeah.
I think that worked out really well.
I mean, even just based on what we've read the outline, I like the tone and the images.
I like that it ended where we had read at the moment where he's trying to shove a tree out of through a small opening. I think that's great.
Yeah, I mean, again, because it's like you can't open the cargo doors because that you'd open it into space. So it's like I have to get cargo from the cargo bay through what would normally be like, I don't want to say an emergency escape pod, but definitely like it's made for people to get into the shuttlecraft. It's not made for moving goods. I mean, everyone's had to move a Christmas tree. You know what I mean? So it's like just the humor of trying to move this
into a home, and it's still a pain in the ass.
Yeah. So
it's like it's a passenger vessel, and he like walks over to one of the trees and puts a pair of sunglasses on. He's like, good, buddy.
If he wasn't in a rush, yeah, that'd be great. But considering he's literally gonna like, as soon as he gets out, he's gonna like throw these trees, you know, into the shuttlecraft and go back and pick it up. And I'm imagining each one weighs anywhere between 50 to 70 pounds because they're live trees and there's water weight and all this other stuff. So I spent like maybe a good hour trying to determine how much does the standard Christmas tree weigh, and then I had to find the right species. That was a rabbit hole I do not recommend going down. But yeah, trying to find the weight of a living tree, but without having proper dimensions. But then anyway, so that was tricky. But I think I got it. And each tree weighs about 50 to 70 pounds. he's gonna move like 10 of them into the shuttlecraft and be like, all right, that's enough, we gotta go. And then there's gonna be an interesting little chase where it's like, I'm thinking now the idea of this chase is that he's gonna have to weave through traffic really fast, but he's just a little shuttlecraft, so it's really not that big of a deal for him. But he's kiting a large cargo vessel behind him, so trying to get through traffic like that'll be interesting. Hopefully it's like a reverse chase, like trying to get them to follow it closely and stuff, because he has an artificial intelligent machine trying to follow his path, and it's got to be wary of that. So, and again, I don't want this to go on for too long, because we got to get the story moving, got to get to the Plant Without Christmas, but at least have a fun, hopefully exciting little chase in the beginning to show
I'm with it.
Once he lands and they're going to unload more, he's going to have like it's not going to be him unloading it, but it'll be like an automated little cart that floats down or whatever. Yeah. And I didn't have time to get that far into the story, but I am going to take the advice of having his wife be like the dispatcher or operator. So I'm thinking like during the chase, he's going to be like close to landing and it's like all crazy and stuff, and it's going to be like incoming call, and Peter's going to be like, Captain, you got an incoming call from your from dispatch. And he's like, oh shit. He's going to flip it on the audio and be like, hi honey, like immediately, to like, so you're learning several things at once, hopefully.
Cool.
That this is a family-run business, and that he knows he's already in trouble because she's calling because he's probably already late. All these things piling up. So I also shortened some of the jokes a little bit to hopefully get a little bit funnier, a little bit tighter. But other than that, those are the only real changes, and that is a little bit longer. But I know there's not a lot to go on because it's literally just like the first 4 pages. But so anyway, any other thoughts?
I dig it, man. I just want to see more. I thought the exchanges were good. I like changing it from the length to the weight. I don't have anything else to say, really. I mean, it's not that much longer than the last time we saw, but I like the changes that you made.
It motherfucker moves.
Yeah, it moves fast.
It goes. Yeah.
All right, because I was worried it was going to drag. That's why, like him trying to figure out the weight thing, I almost thought that was too fast. But whatever. This is your first draft. I'm just going to go. So I'm going to go, and then after the first draft is done, then I'm going to worry about deleting scenes or extending stuff, or whatever. Yeah. So
Yeah, man.
Okay,
I dig it. We're with it.
Cool.
We want it. Max, what are you working on?
I am working on my magical education story. I'm actually gutting it because I started writing it a little too broadly. Instead of British fantasy, more like Irish, kind of prehistoric Irish stuff. But I was doing it in the sense of the way people do British medieval history, to where like they want magic and they want them to have kind of Renaissance level technology, but they want it to be like before Christianity and everything. And I was doing the same thing with Irish history, and I want to get away with that. But it's about a kid who, his family gets killed, and he gets picked up by this witch who kind of sees that he can do a little bit of magic because he survived people killing his family. So she teaches him, and then he goes off in the world, and he's got all this power, and he's a dick.
Sounds like Merlin.
Ronan Kenshin.
Actually, it is based off the story of Merlin, because he's walking along, and this king is like, hey, come over here. And he's like, what? He goes, well, I want to take this fortress. Bring me some dragons. And he's like, well, dragons aren't really anything to fuck around with. What if we don't do that? And the king's like, okay. So what he does is he convinces the king to tell the walls that if they tumble, he'll build them bigger and better. So the king agrees to that, and the kid is able to talk to the stone and gets them to tumble. So the army comes in and destroys everything. And then later on in the story, that's going to fuck him over.
Because the king doesn't build them bigger?
Well, no, he will, but everything he needed from like the magical library is looted and destroyed. So it's a lot about like the hubris of a young, powerful person fucking themselves over and then having to fix it.
And you said like, come get me some dragons. That's right from Merlin.
Yeah, that's like the two dragons were fighting. I was thinking that like he's walking down the road, he just kind of graduated. The witch is like, okay, you're ready to go off and see the world, and then he's just strolling along, and the king's like, bring down some dragons. He's like, you really don't understand dragons like that. I can bring them down, but I can't tell them what to do.
It's like hippos.
No, for real.
And you wouldn't be like, hey, why don't you, like, because remember Pablo Escobar had a hippo, and that thing got loose. No, for real. Like, it was.
I haven't heard the story.
News. Oh yeah, man.
God.
Hold on, I'll pull up a list of all the stuff they found in that hippo's stomach when they finally killed it.
What?
Oh my god.
Oh, so apparently he had several hippos, and they're running loose in Colombia, and they're a huge problem because they're really dangerous.
Holy shit.
Right.
The worst invasive species.
Here are 12 foreign objects found in Pepe's stomach, Pablo Escobar's hippos. 1 pair of Falcon tactical sunglasses, a man's arm.
Whoa.
Well, they find his ulna. Ulna with digital camo on the sleeve.
So I imagine he was wearing the glasses, and he's like, I'm going to get this hippo.
3 378 Magnum rounds, not spent, just he ate them.
Throw the bullets, throw them.
A map of outer Puerto Barrio. a golden torpedo cigar butt, a Jeep Wrangler's headlight, missing cattle he ate, I guess, or swallowed. Yes, something belonging to a government death squad. It looks like a bandana. The keys to a Porsche.
Oh no, someone's real mad about that.
Really expensive fencing material. A super swamper tire. A jungle boot with a tibia in it. And that's it, yeah.
All right.
And his girlfriend Matilda is still at large.
But here's a question. If you were in an MMO and you killed that, that's boss level loot, right?
It's true.
Guys, I think we got to plan
keys
a
to a
trip
Porsche.
We gotta go find. That's the quest. We have to go find the Porsche
But that's your new weapon is the tibia with the...
with the boot in it.
yeah.
You got a couple of rounds. You got to find a gun to use to shoot those Magnum rounds.
But for my story, my...
Sorry.
No, that's amazing.
Yeah, that was
I
so
never
cool. That
heard
was
that.
cool.
I just want to figure out the world a little more because it's going to be like kind of 4 warring kingdoms because the Irish period, everyone was just killing the shit out of each other all the time.
It was before the concept of the nation state.
Yeah. So I want to figure out the world a little less Irish, a little more fantasy style.
So is this like pre-Druidic, like with the
It's
Beaker
Druidic.
people, or
No, it's Druidic. It's pre-Christianity. It's kind of shitty. I don't know enough to do it justice.
okay?
So I don't want to
You
do
have
it.
to, well, you have to make it up.
Well, I know a lot, but not enough. Like the naming is really hard. The names back then were just even crazier than they are now.
Well, if you run out of steam on trying to create crazy names or magical worlds, I'm still down for Uber Shooter.
Oh, yeah.
I want Uber Shooter.
Yeah, I jump around a lot, and it's hard for me to stick to one thing at a time. This is something I've been working on for a while, and I really would like to change the setting, just doing a better job of having a setting. And I want to have kind of the Vikings coming into Ireland, that whole chaos of stuff going on. Keep that, but without just kind of having a plastic setting, if you know what I mean.
But you can make your own, right?
Yeah.
And in fact, that frees you up to do a lot of stuff. Because if you make your own setting, you could have it based on a historical setting,
Yeah.
Like Game of
And-
Thrones.
like Game of Thrones.
Exactly.
And then you get to make fun of history and current politics, or use it as a base of reference.
I was reading it a week ago and before my computer crashed, and I was just like, I'm not a fan of what I did. I like the story, and the magic style is more like there are gods, and magic is what effort you put into it. So if you're just bullshitting, the gods are going to fuck it up for you.
I like the idea that we're like, oh no, just talk the walls into falling down.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. I like
can
that.
do that. That's how magic works. It's insane.
That's like a trickster
Yeah.
god story. You know?
Yeah. Where like if you have a magic ability, you can just talk to the spirit. Like he could talk to the dragons and bring them down, but then everyone would die. The first enemy kind of that he meets is a raven, kind of a raven god, and I want to do another story about his teacher because he was the most powerful wizard in Scandinavia, and he got too cocky, so he started battling the gods.
When you
And-
have two cockies, does that mean you're bisexual?
Yeah, to where the gods turn him into the spirit of madness,
Sheogorath.
kind of, to where he is ravens. His consciousness is made up of like 1 million ravens that can come together,
That could be
and
interesting.
he
He's
swarms
also-
battlefields.
He's raven mad.
Yeah, Ooh, I like it.
He's ranting and,
And
raving.
Raven.
So
I like it.
I would like to make up a better setting to set the story in.
That sounds good. I like
Yeah.
that so far.
I might even storyboard it a little, kind of outline it.
That'd be cool. I'd love to see an outline from you,
Yeah.
Max. Ever.
If I can get my new hard drive to work, that'd be grand.
As for me, I didn't bring in anything because I've been struggling again with this because I'm at the extreme exposition part of the story.
Info dumping a little.
Yeah, well, I'm trying to create scenes that you can get a lot of information across, and so that you can just keep moving.
And that are entertaining. Because
Yeah, exactly.
you've succeeded in that in the second and third chapter pretty well.
Well, thank you. It's really, it's not very easy to do at all. I've been working on this scene right now, and what I have it is another week has passed. Malcolm is more used to them, but now Kilvin is taking him out of his house so that he can tell him where to be in the village. And I think some of the info dump, as long as Kilvin is the presenter of it, will be interesting in its own right. It'll be entertaining.
And it will make sense because you have the window of Malcolm.
Right now, the premise is that nobody's happy that Kilvin is taking Malcolm out of the house because they're like, what are you doing? And show him the secrets. But nobody really wants to confront Kilvin because he's very intimidating. and they're all intimidated. So you're going to get a lot about what goes on in the village, tribes or clans or whatever you want to call them, or whatever I want to call them. And simple rules, but what I need is a reason for him to keep taking Malcolm out of the house, and I think it's because he needs to get a job, in the sense that he needs to be productive and he needs to help out if he's going to stay there, because they're not going to get any information from him. Kilvin's like, look, you're keeping up this fiction about you being an alien, whatever, but I'm convinced you don't know anything worth knowing, regardless of what anybody else thinks.
Or you're just an idiot.
Right, and while you're here, we might as well get some use out of you.
Yeah.
Well, like, are they farmers? How do they eat?
They do farm, they hunt,
Okay.
they do lots of stuff.
Because that kind of community would have no room for someone to just sit around.
Exactly.
You got to have him do something, otherwise he's just a mouth to feed that contributes nothing.
Exactly. That's exactly what my thought process is. So I was thinking he could help out with a blacksmith. He could help out.
Well, I would almost say like just even lifting. If he's a structurally different creature.
Kilvin, I think, has been very critical of him because he is weak. Like, whereas kids his age that he's seen, they're much more robust than Malcolm. Malcolm's,
Well, that could even lend credence to the
bendy.
story. There's a good time travel story I read. It's about a guy who, during the Cold War, he's in Iceland. He's a U.S. soldier, and he gets sent back in time to, like, the 800s.
Right about the Vikings time that you're watching right now.
Well, he's just there, and they're like, okay, who are you? And he speaks Icelandic, which is a language that hasn't changed in, like, 1,000 years.
Yeah.
So he can speak to them. And he's like, oh, I'm from the future. And they're like, oh, that's bullshit. And then he can't do anything, like nothing. And they're like, oh, okay, that kind of makes sense. And he's
Like, he
got
doesn't
a
know
gun.
how to. He doesn't have any practical skills.
Yeah, like he's like, they're like, can you work metal? He's like, oh yeah. And then he just breaks a spear, and they're like, okay, fuck, what? He doesn't know how to fish. He doesn't know how to sail. He doesn't know how to farm. So like, he can't be from their time because he can't do anything.
Because
And
he would not have made it this long.
he's a grown man. They're like,
Yeah.
no, it doesn't. That could lend credence to Malcolm being from another world because he can't do anything. He can't feed himself.
Yeah, I think that's what it's going to frustrate Kilvin the most. But in the most that he knows that Malcolm isn't some spy.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't know how to do anything. He doesn't know how to navigate the woods. He doesn't know. He's out here by accident, as far as Kilvin can tell.
You could even like have them kind of fake let him go to see what he does, and he doesn't do anything. He doesn't know how to do anything.
That's not a bad idea.
Yeah.
Where he's like,
yeah.
I'm going to set him free.
Yeah.
See where you'll follow him. See where he
We
goes.
we can travel faster than he can.
And
There's
he
no
just-
way
he won't
run
see
us.
us. Yeah.
He walks farther into the woods, and they're like,
He just gets out there and
Yeah.
he just like sits down.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what.
Yeah.
Like, what am I gonna do? Where am I gonna go? Maybe that's
Yeah.
a pretty good idea. I do like, but I do want him to have a role in the village. And
Yeah.
that's what I keep banging my head against.
The whole thing is then find what you want Malcolm to be capable of later.
Well, I know Kilvin's going to train him to be doing that stuff, but I think I want him to be making things, right? Because I think he becomes an engineer later. That becomes his passion, is making things.
And that's the thing that is outside of the current
Yes.
world.
Yeah.
So maybe
So,
that'll be the deal.
I
We're
was
like,
thinking blacksmithing. They have wood shapers, but that's a very patient job.
Yeah.
Like that's something
think-
you
well,
just
it-
set the groundwork for.
blacksmithing would be interesting, especially if where you don't even have to be a genius in the modern world to just know a handful of even just geometric properties or even just
I mean,
basic
you-
stuff
you
that a
have to-
child could know. Where
You
you'd
have
be
to
like,
have talent to be
Yeah.
a good blacksmith. But I mean,
I'm
he
saying
can be
I'm saying
taught.
critical thinking and basic scientific knowledge is going to be his advantage because that's what grade school is
I'm trying to
about.
think what would be, because they need Fletchers, right? So
Yeah.
they need iron arrowheads. They need weapons. So they have like swords and stuff like that they use. They don't have horses or anything like that. So I'm trying to think of what would a
So
blacksmith.
no farriers, yeah.
Yeah, what would a blacksmith's job be? Because most of their stuff's made from wood.
any kind of farming tools.
Oh yeah, farming
Any
tools.
farming
Great,
tools,
yeah, great
yeah.
idea. Yeah, farming tools, weapons.
As a
Oh man,
amateur-
okay.
amateur blacksmith.
The whole thing is
Yeah.
they have no beast of burden, right?
Right.
Plow.
He could make a plow.
He could make a plow and then pull it.
Oh, that's not a bad idea.
You mean they turn Malcolm
'Cause
into
they-
a beast of burden?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, the
no,
thing
he,
is-
he could do it like he's seen a plow before. He could.
And then he just literally makes a thing, and then rather than going forward, he would backstep. He would plant the thing and then just
pull it through. Yeah, I'll think about that, because I think way of maybe he'll do one job one day, another job the next, to kind of learn how to, It's like, if you're going to be in this village,
You gotta do something.
You may be in here the rest of your life. Like we never find your family.
and
so
then maybe one of the things that they should talk about were like he does nothing particularly well, but he seems to take to everything very equally. Where he's a
he's a quick learner.
he's a
too.
quick learner, or even they could talk about where like his hands fumble but his mind doesn't. Where like he's getting the concepts conceptually, he's always there.
And I think creativity, maybe, like that's something they're not really big on.
Yeah.
So they're not very inventive. They do things a certain way, and they keep getting better at those things. That's a good example. I'm going to try to think of a couple things.
Yeah.
But that really helps a lot, because as soon as I've got a job for him to do in the village, that becomes a vehicle for exposition, where it's some new person's explaining something to him, and another person's explaining something to him, and it's not really very boring. And I think they might be preparing for the winter, so he has to spend a winter with them, maybe, and that's
that's the time for crafts and stories and all kinds of shit.
Well, and a lot of social interaction, because
Oh,
you
yeah.
have a lot of time all of a sudden on your hands.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'm thinking a lot about the role. So the females in their village are the ones who guard the perimeter and stuff like that. Males are expected to know how to do it, and the females are expected to know some of the martial aspects and the farming aspects of the males, because they have a high attrition rate, like of people who die. So, for instance, Kilvin is a male who is captain of the guard, because he's just the best at being out there and doing everything that the guards need to do. But he's a male, where normally it's only females, but because his wife died.
When Kilvin decides to start training Malcolm, is it seen by everyone else as insane?
I think he keeps it secret from
Okay.
from everyone else until it needs to be brought up. So I want it to be something secret inside their house, because they don't even know he's training his own kids, because there's some secret. Kilvin has a backstory that the reason why everybody's afraid of him is because he's rumored to have killed his own family for making his harangue, his fighting style, for polluting it. That's not the reason that they're dead, but that's what everybody thinks it is, and he's kind of sworn off. He's not going to seek another mate, he's not going to get more kids, and they don't even know that he's training his own children, because he has such a distaste for the whole thing. So then when he finds out that not only is he training his own kids, but he's training, a foreigner, that's a big deal in their village. They're very upset with him. Well, anyways, thank you guys. That's really helpful. That'll help me out, help me move past where I've been writing and rewriting.
Well, yeah, and that's, again, the point of all of this.
Yeah. It is.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's move on to the bad story trailers.
Bad story trailers.
Part of the podcast.
Bad story trailers.
All right. So up next is the bad story trailers part of the podcast, where we roll the dice, pick 3 genres, and then put together a movie, and then record the trailer. So first number is 43. Gas lamp fantasy. We've had this one before, but let's keep it for now.
Do we even use it? I thought that was one of the
Only
ones
slightly, yeah.
I thought we
Let's say
threw it away.
Fantasy's counterpart to steampunk, in which settings are often Victorian or Edwardian socially or technologically, but with non-scientific elements or characters included. Although it was originated by girl genius, modern Sherlock Holmes, Dracula, and Jane Austen pastiche would also fit within this subgenre.
Leave Extraordinary Gentlemen, maybe?
Frankenstein?
That counts. Yeah, they'll do it. That's more
Science fiction.
biopunk.
Yeah.
But it is science fiction. All right, Max. 63. Paranoid.
I like this already.
Paranoid fiction is works of literature that explore the subjective nature of reality and how it can be manipulated by forces in power. These forces can be external, such as totalitarian government, or they can be internal, such as a character's mental illness or refusal to accept the harshness of the world he or she is in. Like Black Swan, I'd imagine,
Yeah.
right? That's the most paranoid.
Or the girl in the wallpaper.
Yeah. What's our next number?
99.
99. Police drama. Gaslamp police drama. Paranoid.
But a
All right.
totalitarian.
Well, the first thing I think of is a constable.
What would you think? Okay, what about somebody who's on the secret police
All right.
in a Gaslamp fantasy universe
Okay.
and realizes that they're being set up to take a fall,
Yes.
or
Or are
constantly
they?
suspects it? Yeah, exactly. So I'd imagine it'd be like 1984, where the further he goes, the more he's like, wait, this is happening to me, isn't it? This is another sign of it. Like, I need to be ever vigilant. I don't know.
It could also, you could tie into taking the Black Swan scenario, like if he starts to see things, like things that he can't explain, and he starts to wonder, is this a curse someone's putting upon me, or am I actually seeing something? Because if this is Gaslight fantasy, this is a world with fantasy creatures and magic,
And then like somebody
and it's like, all right,
somebody can approach him and be like, hey man, you're not actually a member of the secret police. Like
You're something else.
You were somebody else that
yeah, you only think
they put this
yeah.
curse on.
Total recalling you.
Yeah,
No,
exactly.
yeah,
Like, or-
dude, I was gonna say, like, that was my favorite part of Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, when they bring Deckard
Oh.
into the police station, And they're
Yeah.
like, you're not a Blade Runner. You're not registered. And he's like, look it up. And they look it up and like, dude, you're not here. And he's like, all right, dude, I'm going to call my wife and she'll tell you. And he calls his home phone number and a stranger answers the phone. I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. So like that.
Something like that would be really cool.
And it turns out they were just fucking with him.
Yeah, but they immediately like they're about to pull the rug out from under you, but then they immediately slip it right back. It's like it was the weakest fake out. But if this was the whole movie,
Yeah, I mean that was actually one of the things I didn't like about that story was they didn't hang on to that enough,
Well, it's like a
and they also slipped in the other Blade Runner guy a little too
Yeah.
easily.
yeah.
well, like a Knights of the Republic was kind of like this as well.
Yeah.
You know, like that. So
Can I throw out a title for this?
yeah,
The Gilded Rage.
Gilded Rage. Why?
Because the Gilded Age.
Okay.
The number 21.
Ooh.
23. So we've got a main character.
Yeah.
What if it's okay? So what's her position? What's the secret police called?
I'm gonna go. Well, I don't know the secret police,
Shadow Cabinet.
the auditors. I don't know what the secret police are called, but she would just be an analyst.
Or if she's a spy.
I would almost say like she's a desk jockey,
Okay.
a handler, an information
Well, see,
processor.
Police drama. It's got to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the whole thing is, she works with the police. She is in the police service.
Okay.
What if she's like,
But she's just doing
like the
paperwork.
equivalent of like an evidence clerk? Like someone who's just like, okay, we brought in, here's all these magical items that we're bringing in. You know, like, okay, we arrested that necromancer who was hanging around the hospital. You know, like here's what he had on him, and it's all this weird freaky shit. She's dealing with this freaky, magic equipment all the time. Like that's her job, is to categorize all this stuff. It's not like she has a lot of authority. It's like a clerk, but you're exposed to all this stuff all the time, and she starts to get paranoid. Like, is this stuff having an
Well, what
effect
if-
on me?
It should be called Green Branch.
Well, there needs to be the subplot needs to be that it doesn't have to be true, but the plausible subplot that makes her paranoid has to be that there has to be a reason why somebody put her here and things may not be as they seem, right? So
What if like evidence is disappearing?
maybe?
Well, I mean, like, she just shows up for work one day at the police station, and she's like, she's there, and she's about to walk in, and they're like, "Who are you?" She's like, "It's me. It's Samantha."
Oh shit! And she thinks maybe it's like some of the evidence did this to her.
Yeah, or like, and she's like, "It's me. Don't you? I'm here
Like the
I'm here
Gray
every
Fox.
day." And they're like, "Sorry, ma'am, I've never met you before." And then it's like, she starts like think, okay, maybe someone placed a curse upon the police station. They don't remember me. I'm gonna have to break in. And then, but there's many things that she can do, but she doesn't know. Did someone curse everyone around her? Is she cursed? Does she legit not remember, or does she have false memories that's part of the curse that someone made? Like she never actually set foot in the police station before, but she just has.
And then
these
she's
fake
got to
memories.
get in.
But what is the subplot in the sense that like what would be somebody's objective that she's trying to figure out if it is true?
Maybe.
And she's not crazy.
Well, like maybe some of the evidence that was brought in that she just definitely confirmed or whatever is like a higher up person, like a high up mage has dealings with.
And
someone.
they need to make the evidence go away. But also, when they make the evidence go away,
They have to make her-
need the clerk that processed it to go away.
Yeah.
Why would they just make it so that nobody knows her instead of just killing her?
Well, I mean, that's part of the paranoia. But that's the thing. Like
deaths are messy,
maybe she's not actually
crazy
a clerk.
people are everywhere.
Like maybe she is just cursed. Like,
No,
are we
but
trying
I'm
to
saying
figure
it-
out what the real situation is, or just like what miscellaneous?
No,
things?
what? Okay, so the paranoid drama is that something is happening that nobody else sees but them, right? So what is that thing? They have just to put together an idea for it to be happening. It's not just a bunch of random people or random things. There has to be things that like spell a trend. You know what I mean?
Like she comes in and she sees someone she doesn't recognize.
Yeah. Oh, so that's
And everyone
a little
else
better.
recognizes.
Yeah.
That's better. Yeah.
Everyone
don't
else is
know.
like, "Oh, do you know Jim?" And she's like, "No, who is that?" And they're like,
He's worked here
yeah.
for 10 years.
He's been there the whole time.
Oh, so like someone's implanted there, and she's the only one who
Yeah.
recognizes him or recognizes
and
He's
him.
the
then-
only one who doesn't recognize
Yeah.
him.
Yeah, and maybe the only thing that's special about her is that having dealt with items for so
Ooh.
long,
She's like got an immunity to it.
she just got immunity. She's handled too much magic to not be have a little fortitude against.
But
it.
she
and
doesn't
maybe-
know that
maybe-
because she doesn't know magic. She just knows
Yeah.
that there
Or
is
maybe
magic.
maybe she does get hit by one of the items that she's cataloging,
And that's what freed her?
And then
and
yeah,
then-
yeah. Well, and then she's like, "Who
and
is
then
this guy?"
straight up they live.
Yeah.
Magic.
I wouldn't say like the whole universe or anything, but definitely like she can see.
A local conspiracy.
Yeah.
Like so.
Lens of truth.
So it happens like a month. Like it happens, and then like a month later, she comes back, and then just one day she's at work. She's like, "Who's this guy?" And they're like, come on, you got hit with that item. She's like, that was a month ago. Who is this guy? You know what I mean? Like, what are you talking about? And everybody's trying to gaslight her. Like, you're crazy. Like, that's not, this guy's worked here the whole time.
He's about to retire in 2 weeks.
Also,
and then she's
by the way,
put it together like, wait a minute.
They're going to gaslight her?
Yeah, gaslight. Yeah. So what if then she like starts seeing like other people, wait a minute. She starts going through all this evidence log and employee files and stuff like that. She's like, this guy's only worked here 2 weeks. He's about to get his 10-year, anniversary present or something like that.
Yeah, I like the idea that what's really going on is that she's immune to magic because of this, or that this random freak of accident event made her immune, but we, the audience, and her are like, maybe this has given her a power that she hasn't seen before. Maybe she's being cursed or whatever. But the twist being that no, actually she's 100%
that she's the one unaffected,
or that she might have gotten cursed with something that just makes her completely forget specific people.
Yeah,
right.
Like it just like it'll pick,
and you don't know
a random
which one.
person. Yeah, she'd go to therapist and stuff, and he's like, I don't see any trace of magical curse on you whatsoever. And she's like, I don't know. The magical.
It's like there must be something wrong, Then everyone's against her.
Or even there would be like a witch doctor, and he's like, no, you're not cursed at all.
And she's like, well, I'm not a witch. Why am I coming to see you?
Well, she would go to the police psychiatrist.
That's a max level joke. Fuck you.
Max wouldn't have delivered it that way.
Yeah. You're right. He would have been way more blunt and worse about it.
That's true.
He's nodding, everyone. He's nodding.
But wouldn't she go see the police psychiatrist first? He or she would be like, oh, there's nothing wrong. She'd be like, you're in on it.
Yeah,
but I mean, what a police
in on it.
psychologist, would just tell her. That,
well, okay, so we got the base. That's I think.
Well,
that's
she would have to be
enough.
a hot lady that the guy falls in love with.
So now,
no, we have a lady.
So now we know what kind of conspiracy that she thinks is happening.
Right.
What do we call this movie?
Gaslight is super important to put in this.
I think,
in fact, if it was just called gaslighting, I'm sold.
I think
the evidence locker.
I think gaslight. Or just call it gaslight.
I would say gaslight magic or gaslight curse.
Ooh.
The gaslight curse?
Because it's basically what they did to Dave Chappelle, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They like gaslight.
I don't want to do this anymore. You're crazy.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, hey, man, how come the door to my office is on a different wall? What are you talking about?
Well, just gaslight fantasy instead of gaslamp fantasy. Now, like that bridges those two together.
Okay, yeah.
Gaslight fantasy.
Cool.
All right, that's
says what it is.
Gaslight fantasy. For someone who saw magical artifacts every day, Colette's life was pretty bland.
Hey, hello.
Morning, Golden.
This is item 349BQ.
But one special item would turn her world upside down.
What's this one?
Don't know. Seized it from a real piece of work. Sork was running a mind control brothel.
By the gods, that's awful.
We don't know what any of this crap is yet, so be careful. Merlin's ghost! Are you okay?
I think so. I don't feel any different.
Let's go see the diviner, just in case.
Had she really escaped unscathed?
You were sorely missed. Poor Luke mislabeled half the warehouse without you.
Oh, come on. 25%. Tops.
I'm sorry. Do I know you?
Oh, that's cold. Harry thought of all this just for your return. That's a hell of a way to treat an old friend, huh?
It's all right.
Golden, what is this? I've never met this man before in my life.
Magic, mystery, and frightful horrors await in Gaslight Fantasy. Thank you all for joining us for this episode of Bad Storytellers. I'd like to thank my writing group, Doug Banks, Liam Malone, and Max Wessel. All of our writing that we discuss can be found on our website, badstorytellers.com, along with the show notes. And for any questions, suggestions, or cynical critiques of our work, please contact us at badstorytellers@gmail.com. Also, if you dig the show, please, please, please leave us a review on iTunes. It helps us gain visibility among the other writing podcasts immensely. Like even one review increases exposure an enormous amount. So we'd really appreciate it if you do that. But again, I've been Josh LaForge, and I'd like to invite you to join us next week on Bad Storytellers.